Welcome back to Beyond the Classroom. Today we're going to talk about building better leaders. And I've got with me again Rhonda Priest. So, Rhonda, you oversee a whole bunch of leadership and business development programs. Can you talk to us first about new supervisor training?
Oh, sure. And that's one of our very popular ones. Monica Puente teaches that for us. She does a tremendous job, and it's one of our full day classes that we offer. And she's got great experience coming into this, which is one thing I think that makes us. It's really neat that we get to bring subject matter experts in and real life experiences, and those are the people facilitating our workshops. And so, absolutely want to make them relevant to the people that attend our classes. So you ask about new supervisor training. I think the appeal of that, one, is that, so often, and think about in your own situation, if you're in a supervisory position, when did that happen the first time, and how prepared were you for it? Um, I think about my own experience. Oh my goodness. And so what often happens is that you have a stellar employee, you have a supervisor position open up, and you need it filled quickly. And so you grab somebody and you say, "Hey, you're it," and um, and then expect them to succeed. But probably what you were doing before you became a supervisor as part of the maybe first line team, and then what you're doing or expect to do as a supervisor are often quite different. Maybe you're having to supervise people that you were peers with before, and maybe people you've worked with, maybe even good friends with, maybe even related to, for a long time. And so, that's something they don't tell you about. And then there's all the paperwork, and there's all the things that you're supposed to know about what? HR, and about, labor laws, and about all of your policies, and about all the things, and you're supposed to know all the hidden rules of what it's like to be a supervisor in your organization, and so we're not gonna be able to cover all of that in a one-day class, but it definitely is a great foundation. It touches on a lot of the things that supervisors need to know, about how to communicate better as a supervisor, what that role really is, um, kinda what that learning curve might be, what it means to coach and mentor,
Yep.
employees, and how this has been an evolution over the last 50 plus years, but how we now are less, autocratic, uh, less hierarchy in a lot of our organizations in the way that we interact with one another, and so how can you be more of that transitional servant leader, that can really meet people where they are and empower them and equip them, maybe in ways that you weren't, and so, love setting that foundation, giving people a taste of a lot of the key components of supervisor training, and then if they want to go deeper, we usually have some standalone classes to help you do that.
Yeah, I can think of a host of people who probably wish I went through this class long, long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
we kinda leave away, what's left, yeah.
yeah, my daughter got the chance to go through the
Uh-huh.
class 6 months ago or so, and she found it to be very beneficial.
Mhm.
I would say one of the biggest challenges she probably saw coming out of it was how to separate yourself from what I've been doing, what got me promoted to what I now need to do as a supervisor. Are there any other challenges like that that you commonly see new supervisors experiencing that this class helps them deal
Sure,
with?
yeah, that's a good one, that was very insightful of your daughter, that's, I think, how a lot of micromanagers are born, is because that was our thing, that was our responsibility. We take a lot of pride in it, and we wanna see it done as well going forward, and we don't wanna see things fall through the cracks, and we know things, right? Because we did it for a period of time, and so creating those boundaries so that we can help people learn that job, but give them the space to make their mistakes and to coach them along is is invaluable because we can really shut people down, and they're like, "Why bother if you're
Yeah.
gonna come in and save the day or if you're gonna second guess everything I do?" And so helping supervisors know when it's important to speak and when it's important not to speak, is huge. Understanding what that role entails, some people think that, "Oh, great, I'm the boss." Well, with that comes a tremendous amount of responsibility, and what does a really good boss or supervisor look like? And most of us can describe that if we've been fortunate enough to have that person in our own lives. Um, and how can we model those kind of behaviors as opposed to that person that didn't um, show up well as a boss and maybe weren't even wired for it? Now, some of those skills can be taught, and if there's a willingness to learn them, um, some people have kind of a natural leaning towards being just good, charismatic, informal leaders. People just follow them. Um, but there's a lot more to it than that. But it's not about being the person that has the final say and I get to sit back and watch everybody else do all the work. And um, so, really helping people understand their role, how they can really lead a team well, and how we can help grow other people. I think are some of the things that I wish I had known earlier.
Yeah. Fortunately, we can learn a lot from bad bosses too.
We can. We talk about them enough to get the point across.
So, important skills that I'm guessing you teach in some other classes would be how to be more effective at communicating and how to more effectively listen.
Yes.
So, what kind of offerings do we have for those?
Yeah, that one comes up a lot, especially with our customized training. People say, I just need you to do a workshop on communication. Well, that is so big. And so, how do you approach that? So, first, we need to know, like, okay, tell me more. Um, so, is it your own personal communication? Is it about being clearer in that communication? Is it internal or external? Um, is it more one-on-one or is it, trying to present, messaging a lot across a lot of different channels? And so understanding, kind of this context or situation is very helpful. But you ask any, business leader, especially HR people, and you'll see that most, like climate surveys that you do within organizations, looking at organizational culture, communication is something that is always gonna take a hit. And and people often are like, "I don't know what else to do," right? We do the emails, and we do the newsletters, and we do the town halls, and we do the podcast, and why aren't people getting it? But, I spoke in a previous podcast with you about the importance of learning about other people's perceptions, and yeah, I mean, we could be sitting through the same announcement and we're gonna hear things and take things away differently. And so helping people understand just some of the key components of good communication, the importance of clarity and being clear about your message, um, making sure that we don't try to use big words to make ourselves sound important because actually it has the opposite effect. At what level should we be communicating? Usually somewhere between that sixth and eighth grade level. Um, Most people are going to respect someone that can just shoot straight with them and talk in a easy to understand way than someone that's trying to impress them with, all of um, the slogans and the acronyms. Yes, exactly. And and you think people would know that, but we don't, and so we need to be reminded, and the importance of really listening, and I think it's getting harder and harder. Our attention spans, for most of us, regardless of age, have really diminished. If we can't see it, if it doesn't catch our attention in the first few lines, we move on to something else, and so if you wait to tell what's really important in the middle of an email, especially if people are looking at it on their phones, they're not gonna stick with it long enough.
Right.
And if somebody sees too many words, we don't have as many readers amongst us these days either, and so there's just so many things to be mindful of, and, so both the listening and the communicating. One that ties in with this I'll mention quickly is we've recognized, we've started including it in some of our trainings, is helping people both give and receive feedback better. Hear that a lot from our, different supervisors, that just how defensive people get, or they get shut down when people give them feedback, even if it's supposed to be constructive. And so there's work to be done on both sides of that. How do we deliver it? And also how do we receive it? And giving people some instruction around that, we found to be very helpful.
Those crucial conversations, they're hard, right? We all want to be liked.
Yes.
And It's tough. You mentioned early about the new supervisor, about I may now have to supervise my friends
Uh-huh.
or my family. Wow. Did
Yeah.
crucial conversations get that much more difficult?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that brings up a whole lot of stuff, doesn't it?
Yes. Yes, it
And we
does.
aren't therapists. We try to help, but yeah, sometimes we have to draw the line.
So can you talk to us a little bit about team dynamics? And so I know we do disc training. Can you talk to us a little bit about what we do as far as team dynamics, how we build those?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we have several people who are trained to provide different assessments. Melissa Martin is trained in DISC. I'm trained in CliftonStrengths as well as Myers-Briggs, and have recently completed some mediation training. And so, um, we try to make sure that we're equipped, but there is something special about those personality assessment, and each one kind of hits at things a little differently. Um, I don't really like one better than the other. They're just different, and some are more suitable for a certain audience than another. We also have some that we do that we can provide at no cost, excuse me, no additional cost, um, that are fun to do for team building, just to give people a good awareness of just some of those things that make us different. Some of us think out loud. I'm one of them. Um, Other people are very reflective, and they're not going to speak until they have it all organized in their mind. And that's just one small example. Um, so we do those, and usually do the DISC, Myers-Briggs, and Clifton Strengths for customized training, so we can work specifically with your team. But then we do a lot of so when it comes to just general teamwork, collaboration, understanding the importance of trust and that psychological safety, making sure that people feel seen and heard. As humans, we all have that need, whether we admit it or not. And as an employer, um, it's important to recognize that. We do some fun things around teamwork. We've got some escape room activities we have recently acquired that I'm anxious to use. We do, Lisa Wheels especially is great with Legos. And so we've been doing some Lego work, and that's fun with teams. And just, it's amazing.
Something like having one person build it and the other person explain
We've
how to
done
build
that.
it.
We've done that. And that ties into communication, right?
That is a
It
challenge.
is, right? And so there's lots of different things, and we're always employing new ideas, and know there's so many more icebreakers than two truths and a lie. So that one's kind of like banned from any of my classes. But one thing that has been said that just I think really says it is when people come to our classes, maybe occasionally somewhat hesitantly, they've been voluntold they need to be there or something their organization has planned, and they leave and they say, "Man, this was fun. I expected it to suck." So, being told it doesn't suck is like a win for us. And so we're always trying to keep it fun and light, but still very impactful so that it can be applied when they walk out the door.
Deal. So do you offer any training in conflict management, de-escalating emotions, those kinds of things?
Yeah, we do. And of course, that just goes with the world we live in. And seems like we've seen more of a need for that. And I think during different times that we're going through stresses, either individually or as a society, a lot of times that stuff just comes spewing out. And it may not even be what's happening in the moment. It's just that one thing that kind of sends a person over the edge. And so, how can we recognize that we do have some control over that? First and foremost, ourselves. And then also how we handle other people. So, instead of matching their behaviors, how can we kind of change that dance and have um, a different narrative, and giving people some tools to do that, and some language to use. That's been really helpful, and for many people, I think just helps make it less personal, in the sense that, okay, you're going through something really difficult. Obviously, this isn't a good time, um, and knowing that we can come back and pick this up later, or I'm going to give you some time to, you know,
Right.
think this through, or to step away and then come back instead of really forcing it. It depends on what our approach to conflict is. Some of us are avoiders. Some of us go in harder. You know, we're gonna figure this out now, and so there's so many different things at play there we need to be aware of, and it's important for us as individuals in our workplace and our homes to understand that and to use these strategies.
And I'm assuming when you go through crucial conversations training with folks, you help them understand that conflict avoidance is not productive in most cases
In most
anyway.
cases, yeah. I mean, um, if it's low hanging fruit, and if it's something that it's really not going to matter,
Sure.
you know, but that's not usually the case.
Can't let it slip forever.
You can't let it slip forever. And then, um, yeah, I'm one that could tell you story after story because that is my natural default.
Most
Uh,
of us, right?
yeah, well, it depends, but yeah, but for many of us it is. And so, but what are the cost of not addressing something in a timely manner?
Yeah. So I've often heard emotional intelligence. It's like a superpower. So when people embrace emotional intelligence, what kind of changes do you typically see in them?
Yeah, it's really amazing to see. And IQ, that's something that we don't have a lot of control over. It's pretty well determined early in our lives. But our EQ is something we have a tremendous amount of control over. And we've talked about emotional intelligence for quite some time. This really became more um, within the last probably 25, 30 years. And it's interesting to me that a lot of young people, in fact, people in our classes, they'll say, this is something I was never taught in school, but they may have a third grader or a kindergartner that comes home and they've got the feelings chart, or they're having to identify their feelings, or can even use big words. And you're like, where did that come from? Right. I'm feeling very frustrated. I didn't know that word when I was that age. And so they're often better, because it is something that's a bigger focus in our educational systems than it was earlier, and maybe even in the even before they start school. But yes, one thing I've really enjoyed doing is talking more about emotional articulation. We don't even, and I say we, I'm making some pretty broad sweeps here, but many adults don't even know how to identify and name their feelings. Um, sometimes we'll say, well, I'm just done, or I'm frustrated. And that really doesn't tell us a lot. But if we can really dig down, and even using an emotions wheel can be, our feelings wheel can be really helpful, because instead of using the like mad, sad, happy, what am I really? Well, maybe I'm feeling overwhelmed. Maybe I'm overwhelmed because I've got a lot more coming at me right now. And maybe I'm feeling paralyzed and I don't know. Okay, so now I can have a productive conversation with someone. And as a supervisor, if I'm able to ask those questions better, instead of reacting to that first thing that an employee says to me, or maybe he doesn't even say, your behaviors just,
Right.
we're just interpreting your behaviors. That's a powerful tool, um, and can be used in every aspect of our life.
So you've had a lot of students come through your programs over the last several
Yes.
years. Do you have a favorite success story?
Hmm. Yeah, really anytime when someone says, "Hey, I got a lot out of this." What gets me, and I'm sorry I can't give you a specific example on what the class is, but is when I'm just out in the community and maybe someone I don't even remember coming through a class, and they'll come up to me and say, "Oh, I wanna tell you how much this meant to me. I remember exactly what you said," which really scares me, and how much I've used this, right? Uh, as a result of something that they took away from one of our workshops, and that's happened more times than I can count.
So this probably happens to a lot of folks. I know it's happened to me in the past. Get stuck in my leadership style, right? Because this is what I've leaned on for years. It's what I know best. It's worked for most people, but I've got some new employees, whether they're different generations, whatever they may be, they're new and it's not working for them. What's the first step I can do?
Just had that happen internally with someone that came to us and has a situation, and was just saying how it's just been a little off, and just not connecting the same way. And so getting ready to do some team building with that group, also thinking about have this conversation around generations, different personalities, to help this person and the people leading this program maybe understand some things that might have shifted. And every cohort, every group of students is different. Same thing with those of us that are in the workplace. So for me, it's been really helpful to have someone in my life, have a couple of people that have that kind of trusting relationship that when I sit down and say, what am I doing wrong? Or what's different? They can be honest with me and I can receive that well. And I appreciate that level of just transparency. That's been huge. So sometimes we get really stuck and think, okay, well, this is my leadership style. This is who I am. And I don't know what their problem is. And anytime we start using that kind of language, that could be a sign, um, us and them. Well, maybe it's because this is a different group. They've had a different upbringing. They've had different life experiences. They have different personalities. Maybe I'm the one that's a little too stuck and set in my ways. So, what can I do to feel learning more about them and what their needs are and being more adaptable? Recognizing that what may have worked in the past may not be serving me well going forward, or maybe just not in the situation. And so being able to pivot better. Um, so I think being receptive to insights of others and then just exposing yourself to other people's, what's worked, whether it's TED Talks, podcast, attending a class, especially something with groups outside of your normal circle, it'll be huge. So,
So, are there any other leadership development classes we haven't talked about that you'd like somebody to know about?
oh, there probably is, but what I want people to know is what you see in our catalog, and even when you go onto our website and register online, is just a f the tiniest fraction of what we offer and are able to do. So, if there is anything that in the kind of work world, either, skills you need to develop as an individual or, for your team, let's have the conversation. And sometimes you may know exactly what you need. And sometimes you may think you know what you need, but we can have a conversation and figure out maybe what might be a better approach. And we can customize that. And usually financially, it's a better option if you're going to be doing it for several of your team members. And we can customize it just for you. And if we're not offering, ask us. If you know you can't do customized training, but I really need my team to go through. We're dealing with our clients have become much more combative, and maybe it's something around de-escalation, and I don't see anything in the catalog. Okay, tell me what you need, and you can send a couple of people to each class, but we still got to man the store, right?
Yeah.
Let me know that. We'll put it in the either the next catalog we produce, or we'll go ahead and throw it in for later in this semester. It's that easy, but we don't know that you need it unless you let us know.
Sounds good. Yeah. I working for Lowe's years ago,
Huh?
we've had several of our teams go through these trainings and they were very beneficial. So if you're business leader, if you're just a new supervisor or somebody who's looking to gain some additional skills, reach out to Rhonda and her
Definitely.
team. They've got something that can help you grow as a person, can grow your team, can grow a better business. That's a wrap for this episode on Beyond the Classroom. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, remember to like, share, subscribe. We'll see you later.
I want tomorrow. I want tomorrow. I want tomorrow. I want tomorrow today.